Right, so in terms of what our next moves are and what our next missions should be, as I mentioned earlier, in terms of upgrading the altar and doing base improvements and that sort of thing, what I would recommend at this stage, and that's just with having the benefit of already completing the game, I would recommend that you don't really need to strengthen your flame altar or be particularly concerned with strengthening your flame altar just in terms of a general mission at the moment, because as I mentioned earlier, you run across everything you actually require to do so just in your general journeys around the place. So we'll run into some resin once we cut some trees down. There's plenty of red mushrooms around. We as yet do not know where Shroud Liquid is or Sparks, and we've already come across a couple of animal furs as well. In terms of upgrading the altar as well, we don't know where Shroud Core comes from at this stage, but again, as I mentioned earlier, that's one of the things that we will be made aware of as we progress through. So one other thing that I didn't mention, which I will do right now, is craft ourselves a campfire, because previously I mentioned, as you'll see in the top left hand side of the screen, you'll see the rested buffs that are actually occurring for the character right now. So I currently have warmth when I am communing with the flame, but as you see here, when I step away from the flame, and as you'll see in a minute when it becomes dark, I don't actually have warmth because it'll be night time. But what I can do, and I'll just load the fire just onto my load bar here. So delete one of those. So what I'll do as well is, now that I've got that fire loaded up into my action bar, I'll just have a bit of a look around here, do a bit of looting for a moment. Collect myself some wood. Now what you'll see, as you saw just there, just as it went to night time, it suddenly became cold. So what I can do is, if I was, let's say, not anywhere near my base, what I could do is put down that fire there, and you'll see there I now have warmth. So that helps my rested buff, and as I mentioned just a moment ago as well, once you chop down trees you get resin, so there's some resin as well. So that's the use for the flame there, just so that you're aware of that. Another one of the things you can do at the fire as well is you can actually cook. So if I were to load some of the meat that we got earlier on, the raw wolf meat when we killed the wolves, if I place that into my action bar there, what'll happen is it's giving me a prompt to cook that, and it's now going to give me a little bit more of a benefit in terms of replenishing energy and replenishing health for me. Another thing you may notice in the top corner there is you saw my rested buff went up. That's a buff that increases when you are near a flame or near your home base. This is something that's actually pretty relevant to know later on once you start crafting a few things for your home base, like items that make you comfortable at home. Now in terms of that, you'll see here at the workbench in the crafting menu there are things like benches, illumination, chairs. Let's say for example we look here at the illumination. There's a +2 comfort if I construct a bench or a chair or something like that. So there's 1 comfort there for a chair. So if I were to equip that stool and place that stool here at my home base, anywhere near where we wanted it to be, now I have +1 in terms of comfort, and you'll see that my comfort level went up to 6 there. So it's just one of the little mechanics to sort of get to know during the beginning of the game. Now another thing as well is, in terms of this, it's something that is relevant if you are doing a lot of fighting, but if you're not doing a lot of fighting, to be honest, you don't really need to concern yourself too much with it. You will lose a bit of health, but if you do happen to run into some more hardcore enemies, then yes, you do need to think about this sort of stuff. But what I would probably say, just in general terms, is just think about it, and you know, it's a really situational thing. If you think that you're going to be doing a lot of fighting and you're going to be around lots of enemies and whatnot, just contemplate your rested buff, contemplate doing things like eating food, that sort of thing. So, for example, if I eat this wolf meat here, you notice that my health bar goes up there. And what we'll do in the interim is just to continue to do a bit of looting around here. And we'll do that until it's morning time. So this is just, at the moment, we're just constructing materials that we're going to be using for really early in-game materials and things like that. So in terms of anything that is storage, which I just mentioned earlier, you can store things at your home base. Now, one of the things I'll mention with regards to storing things at your home base, unless you're on a server that is open, or you've been given, or you've given access to other people to your server, you don't really need to concern yourself with your base being raided or anything like that. As I mentioned at the beginning, what I've done with my particular server is I've just used my own, and you can actually also just store your content or your saves locally on your own drive as well, so you don't even need to worry about being raided or anything like that. Some people are sort of concerned about those sorts of things, or, you know, worry about them in these particular games, but it's something you don't really need to worry about with this particular game. So what I'll do right now is, now that we've constructed ourselves a little bit of storage, I'll just store the basic things here that I'm not going to require off on my journeys. Things like fireflies for lights, all the rest of it. We don't really need arrows as yet because we haven't constructed a bow. We've already got two rusty short swords and a hatchet. What I'll do here as well, and this is also a good chance to sort of point out one of the other mechanics that exists in the game. So let's say when I select on that rusty sword there, what I can do is salvage that, and let's say I salvage that one as well. So you'll see now that I have 14 runes. Now, I'm not sure if you recall previously, but when we looked into runes and what they're actually used for, one of the things they're used for there is for resetting your skill points. So in terms of, as I mentioned earlier, you know, things being not particularly out of reach in this game and not being too difficult in this game. So what I did is I actually just recycled a couple of easy swords that were from really easy enemies, and I've already got enough runes to reset my skill points. One of the things you'll also notice at a later date as well is, once you have a weapon that you would like to upgrade, you'll be able to actually upgrade that as well, but that's something we get into later on, and you'll be able to do that with these runes as well. So keep a hold of them, but don't be paranoid about getting them or not having them or anything like that, because there's something that's handy but not completely necessary, and it's not, you know, a massive drama if you don't have runes on you or you haven't actually stored a lot of runes. Alright, so now that we've done a little bit of basic construction around our base and created ourselves a really easy base, what you would possibly do now is completely up to you, but we were given a mission earlier to find a sleeping survivor, and it was said that it was marked on the map. Okay, so you'll see up here that we've been given a waypoint, and at this stage it looks like it's pretty far away, and it looks like there is a little township that is on the way there. We don't know at this stage whether there's any enemies or anything like that there, or there could be other enemies that are actually on the way there. And as I mentioned earlier as well, it's actually night time, so we don't really want to do any traveling at the moment at night time. So what we imagine we should do first is get ourselves organized in terms of a bed. Now what I'll do is a quick little loot around the area here. We'll see if we've got enough plant fiber, enough string and enough torn cloth to construct that. So what I'll do is I'll have a look at our storage in here. Torn cloth, we've got almost enough of that. So all we need in order to complete that is a little bit more string. Now what you may notice at this stage as well, you'll notice that it takes a little while for everything to respawn. So because we've already looted all of the plant fiber in the immediate area now, we're forced at this stage to go a little bit further afield and try and get ourselves some more plant fiber from a little bit further away from where we are at home to create some string, which is no drama because we can go not too far up the road here. But as I mentioned earlier, you don't really want to go too far early in game before you are ready to do so. Alright, so in terms of making a little bit more string, we've now got enough to make some string. And what we'll do now is head back down to the base and craft a bed, and I'll see you there. Alright, so now that we've got enough materials to craft our bed, we'll craft that. Head into our hotbar here. Get our bed ready to go. And what we'll do then is equip that. And we'll place that down. Now one of the things you'll see there immediately as we've placed the bed down is you can actually sleep. So if it is night time, it's just actually gone dawn now, so it's hard to actually illustrate this. But if it is night time, you end up with a speeding up of the night time. So it ends up being 60 times the speed and you can sleep through the night. So that is why it's really handy to have a bed in place there at your home base and ready to go, so you can speed up the night time, especially if you're wanting to be able to see where you're going as well. It makes it quite difficult to be able to see what's happening when it's dark. Alright, so now that it's dawn, what we'll do is we'll take a look at heading on over towards where we need to get to for our first little mission, and that is to find the sleeping survivor. So let's head over there now.